Vicki, we've had a lot of requests from some of our viewers to handle what to do about siblings fighting. How do you handle that?
Yeah.
Let's jump on that today at Live on Purpose TV. Let's back up a step, because when kids are fighting with each other, it might have something to do with the expectations or the culture of the family to start with. So if we were to establish a culture of respect.
Yeah, that is a really hard one, but you can start that right at the very beginning. I remember one time getting a letter from my brother, and his daughter was, I think she might have only been 3 or so. And I remember him saying in his letter, I respect her so much. And I thought that was so strange. I hadn't ever really thought about an adult respecting a small child before.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's a culture. And we've talked before on the channel about family rules, all of which have to do with respect.
Right. Yeah.
Should we review those really quickly before we move further? So rule number 1, respect yourself and others. Can you see what that rule might have to do with siblings fighting with each other? It's actually a rule of the home and of the family to respect yourself and to respect others.
You know, and I love the ad, respect yourself, because a lot of the times when we fight with other people, it's not as much about them as it is about yourself.
That's actually very true. If we're feeling insecure, if we're not quite happy with...
a lot quicker to pick a fight.
Yes, right. And that might be happening behind the scenes with your kids. So that's rule number 1, respect yourself and others. Rule number 2, Vicki?
Respect property.
Which has a whole lot more to do with things and possessions than it does with your neighbor's yard. I used to ask kids all the time, what is property? It's my neighbor's yard.
Because your mom's always saying, don't go in their property.
Right. So yes, it is the yard, but it's also your possessions, and it has to do with treating things well. Sometimes when siblings are fighting, it's about stuff.
Yeah. And if they're not treating it with respect, their own items, toys, and others, then the children can start a real fight going. And it's nice to be able to pull it back. Instead of going into, you're mean, you can go into remember our family rule is to respect property, so you can't take your brother's thing without asking him, because that's not respectful, or you can't throw it wherever,
Right. It has to do with taking care of
the items,
the item itself, and putting it where it belongs and not using it without permission, and also sharing appropriately. Because if we value things above people, then we've got our priorities out of whack. So that's part of the family culture, to respect property. And then the third one also has to do with respect. The way we've said it in the past, Vicki, is cooperate and obey, right? Which has to do with respecting authority.
Right. Now, this was kind of tricky because you say the word authority, but you also want children to respect and cooperate and obey with their siblings. There may not be an authority, a hierarchical setup yet, but there's still kind of a authority in that the greater good is to get along.
So there's a little difference between cooperating and obeying. And the way that I explain this to kids is that you should cooperate with anyone who is asking you to do something that's right and reasonable, whether they're in authority over you or not. So a little sister is someone you should cooperate with if she needs some help with something, or if she's asked you for some assistance, or to share something with her, right? Now, obeying has to do with authority.
Right. That one has just a little bit different. And I think it's really important. Again, we've talked about this on other videos about understanding the difference between just giving in to someone with authority, but obeying when they're asking something reasonable and that's right.
Right. It's good for kids to understand who they should obey. Now, they should obey you as a parent, right? Now, that's assuming that you as a parent are asking them to do something that is right and reasonable. But who else has authority over that child?
There are lots of different people. There might be the school teacher.
Right. Maybe a police officer, a judge.
Or maybe even a neighbor that is needing something, or it's their property that they're talking about.
And that goes back to the cooperate too, because even if they don't have direct authority, then you should cooperate as long as they're asking you to do something that's right and reasonable. This is the family culture that we want to establish.
So you're saying to help the kids with fighting, you want to go back to the very basics and make sure you've got the culture, the rules set up in your home.
Right. This is the foundation. Right. This is at the root of everything that you're going to ask your kids to do now related to the fighting.
Okay, so now you've got some kids fighting. How can you bring it back to these? Or what do we do next?
The next step is to make sure you understand what stage your child is on.
Yeah, that's so important. You want to really understand what stage your child is in while they're behaving, acting out, whatever it is,
right,
so that you can use the right consequence with them. So it's the 3 C's, whether you're going to go with consequences, communication, or consultation.
Right. Now, if you don't remember the 3 stages, we're not going into it in this video. Go back to the Positive Parenting playlist and you'll see other videos where we talk about those 3 stages, particularly one that's titled Teaching Kids Responsibility. You're going to find a model there that's going to help you to understand what we're talking about here. Understanding their stage of moral reasoning and development is going to guide how you approach it as a parent. So here's a quick example. Let's say that 2 of the kids are fighting with each other and you intervene to stop the fight, right? You guys, stop.
Wait, can I interject something?
Yes.
Anytime the 2 kids are fighting, they're kind of acting in stage 1, because remember, cooperation is the one you get passed out of stage 1 into stage 2. So right now they're acting stage 1, but as soon as you start talking to them, they might flip right into stage 2 with you. If they decide to cooperate.
They're cooperating.
Yeah, so be aware that even though their behavior right at the moment is stage 1, they might, as soon as you kind of step in and start intervening, they might be able to swap it and go right back into stage 2 with you. Right. In the situation, at which point it's going to be a lot easier.
That's how you're going to be able to tell what stage they're on, because if they respond, they start to cooperate with you as you're intervening to break up the fight, then they're in stage 2.
So let me ask you this. What if you've got 2 kids fighting, obviously, and child A is ready to move into stage 2 and cooperate with you, but child B is just fighting like crazy still? We had a situation like that in our family a long time ago. I guess what I'm saying is the way that you're dealing with the sibling rivalry and the way that they're fighting might not be the same for each child.
Exactly.
Because if child A is going to stay in stage 1, you're going to use a consequence. And if child B is willing to come and meet you with cooperation, you're going to change the type of...
You'll still use consequences, but there will be a different kind of consequence if they're willing to cooperate with you. So it could be, for a stage 1 child, for example, you might restrict access to something that they really enjoy having access to. It might be a game system, it might be the electronics in the home, it might be access to certain areas in your home.
Right.
You can enforce that 100%. Now, with the other child who's cooperating with you, you're going to have some communication. Vicki mentioned that we use consequences at stage 1, communication plus consequences at stage 2, but the consequences shift because now they're the kind that can require cooperation. And then consultation at stage 3. We're not even going to talk about that because...
usually you're not fighting at stage 3.
That's not why you're watching this video, right? So with that stage 2 child, you'll have a conversation. You might say something like, let's work together on getting along and making sure that we follow rule number 1, which is to respect ourselves and others. That means we don't fight with each other. And your child will be like, I know, okay, I need to do better. And they're going along with you, right? Now, do you have a consequence? Yeah, you might. And that consequence might be a writing assignment. A little essay about how to treat people. It might be that they get to do an extra chore or some act of service for that sibling, the one that they were fighting with. You can see that those kinds of consequences require cooperation. So we only use them with stage 1 kids. If your child is not cooperating, it has to be something that you control 100%, that you can enforce whether they want you to or not.
Right.
Okay?
You know, you mentioned a service or something like that. That kind of pulls us into another part. When you're setting up the family culture, you know, we talked about the 3 rules. Another cultural aspect you might want to set up in your family somehow is service among the children. And
so they're serving each other.
So they're serving each other. And one of the reasons that happens, you know, when you're born into a family, your siblings, and you all know this unless you're an only child, you don't always pick your siblings. You wouldn't necessarily pick their personality to be your best friend, right? It's just kind of happenstance. So there are some personalities that have to learn how to get along with each other. You have to learn how to like them. And one of the best ways to learn how to like and love somebody is by serving them.
That is true.
So you can make some fun games or some activities or some expectations of service, maybe before the fighting or when the fighting isn't happening, to try to help the siblings get to know one another better and to like each other better.
I like what you said about making this part of the family culture. You can also integrate this as a consequence for a stage 2 child, someone who's already cooperating with you. And it's kind of fun to make this a challenge from time to time, just as part of your family culture, where you might have secret service. Okay, now that sounds like somebody who protects the president, right? But it's also, you secretly do acts of service for someone that you've drawn out in the family meeting or something like that.
But you can even add it to your family culture, like you've got a little 3-year-old maybe that's oftentimes in stage 1, because that's their age, right? And you say, hey, we ought to do XYZ for so-and-so because we know that makes them happy and that they really like it. Let's go do that. And so you're doing that at a time when there's no emotional charge.
Right.
Thanks for joining us today. If you want to find some more resources for your parenting, go to parentingpowerup.com.
That's where Vicki and I have collaborated to put together a number of resources for you as a conscious, positive parent. Thanks for joining us.